This is going to be a short tutorial on using ArcGIS Collector for creating pre-plans on a desktop computer. ArcGIS Collector requires Windows 10 operating system to be installed. Our goal is to have at least one computer in every station upgraded to Windows 10 and the ArcGIS Collector application installed on at least one per station over the next few days. We're going to continue working to do the rest of our computers in the division. In order to do that, we have to install new hard drives, and then before we can update them to Windows 10. So it's going to take a little time, but over the next few weeks, we should have all of those complete, hopefully. So when you're going to do a pre-plan on a desktop computer, there's a few differences here we'll go over. You open the application, looks like this. It should be on your desktop. If you have a Windows 10 computer and it's not on the desktop, then give us a call here at ISU and we'll make sure we get that on there for you. So double click on that to open it. And once that opens, I'm already signed in. You'll need to sign in, and the username and password is the same as for Survey 123. And they're also all listed in SharePoint under the ISU tab, the Survey 123/collector username and password document. So once you're logged in, you're going to go to the CDF pre-planning map. Again, it's going to ask you if you want location services on. If you're on a desktop computer, you don't want to turn them on because the map will try to keep moving to where you're at physically, and you don't want that. So just hit OK. We're not going to turn that on. And here we see our map. And this looks very similar to the mobile application. There's just a few caveats to it that we want to go over. One of the differences is the menu's a little different. So this first circle with the lines on it, that's giving you your location. So when we click on that, it's not going to take us anywhere because location services are disabled. So that's fine. The search bar that comes up on the left here, that's the same as in the mobile application. Instead of the little plus to add items, which was a blue circle with a plus down here in the mobile app, in the desktop app, it's up here in the toolbar. So to add an item, you would just click on that, and then you select the item you want to add, and you would start adding it. Now our menu here, we have map contents, which is our layer and our legend. Right now the legend only shows 2 items because there's only 2 layers with items that we're looking at. So you'll see if I get out of that and I zoom in closer to where we have some icons pop up that we put in earlier. Now when I go there, whoops, clicked on the wrong one. My contents. Now you'll see that the legend shows all of the items because now our icons are active. So it'll show us all of them. And then here there's another little tab for layers, just like in the mobile application. It shows you all the layers here. The ones that have a check mark by them are the ones that are active. It doesn't mean they're visible. It just means they're active, and they will be visible if you're zoomed in properly. You can see here that there's a difference in shading between the battalion boundary, which is invisible right now because we're zoomed in so close, and all of the other layers are darker font because they're actually visible because of our zoom level. So again, if you don't see something you want to, you possibly just have to zoom in closer or back out in order to see that layer. So that's our layers, and so our base maps, we don't change base maps. They're locked. You're not going to be able to change it, so we won't talk about that. Measure is an important one for the desktop application. The reason is because if you remember in that mobile application, the unit of measure for square foot for area was square footage, but it was set to automatic. So if the building was too big and the square footage got to a certain point, it would automatically change it to acreage. We don't want it to be acreage because we collect square footage in the pre-plan, and it's used for the calculation to tell us our estimated water flow for a fire. So we need to collect the square footage, not the acreage. And I'll show you what happens if, say, for example, we have a big building, and I'm going to collect the pre-plan for it. I'm going to hit add, and now I'm going to start making my polygon here. We'll pretend I want to make it a big one, so we go over the square footage amount. We come here, and so you'll see here for instead of square footage, it went to acres. So that's the problem. That can't be changed. There's no setting in the desktop application to change it to always be square footage. So you'll see if we reduce the size a bit, it'll go from acres eventually to square footage. It's still not. So there. So if it's small enough, it'll show square footage. So if we have a building and we have a lot of buildings that are bigger than that, you're going to have to actually measure the building. There's two ways you can do it. You can take the acreage and you can calculate, you can convert that to square footage and then enter that square footage right here. The other way you can do it is you can measure the building. So we're going to delete this one here. Discard what we're doing. So we can measure the space here using the measure tool, which is why that tool is more important here on the desktop feature. So you click on the measure tool, and here you have what you're measuring and then your unit of measure. So we want to change it from distance to area, and we want it to be square feet. So this is where we can select if it's acres or square feet or what it is. So we're going to leave it at square feet. And then we're just going to trace this building like I did before, about the same size. Obviously, that's not the building outline, but I want to make it big enough to where it would go to acres. Okay, so instead of acres, it's showing us 120,457 square feet. So we would just make that notation of the square footage, and then we can put that into our pre-plan after we draw our polygon to begin our pre-plan. So now we're done. That will go away, and now we would be back into our pre-plan. We can enter the square footage in there. So that's the biggest difference, really, between the desktop app and the mobile app. There are some other settings that are available here that are not available in the other application, the mobile one. But none of those settings are really useful to anybody. You have some location settings. Okay, we're not using the location feature, so we're on Imperial. If you want to use metric, you can change that if you want. But none of that, you don't really need to mess with any of these settings. They're not very useful, to be honest. So that's pretty much it. Not everything else is the same. Adding items. Like I mentioned here, if you want to add an icon, but you don't see it over here, saying how can I add it? It's because you're zoomed out too far. So once you zoom in closer, now you'll see you can add these different icons. And it's also like that in the mobile application. So that's about it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. If you have any other questions, feel free to give me a call here at ISU 664-6362. Thank you.